out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took the hell of a beating. Your boys took the hell of a beating.
Welcome to Paragraph 2, 1979-80 Revisited, subsection module 1.12. We're still in the First Division. We've already seen how the two Manchester clubs have fared on this particular weekend, or this Saturday actually. There's no Sunday football going on at this point, no, very little, certainly not televised. Saturday, December the 8th, Christmas is looming. The pitches are getting a bit more ropey, Dave. The floodlights are on. You know, the great footage of kind of like the floodlights being on at half time and it being, the darkness is closing. We're off to Selhurst Park first, I think. We've got Alan Robinson from Hampshire as our referee. We've got a game that is, I don't know, with a simmering start of a Clough Taylor rift. We've got some interesting goalkeeping from Peter Shilton, and it's 2 points for Crystal Palace.
It is. We start, of course, with Brian Moore pointing us in the direction of the television mast that's actually broadcasting the pictures to us, which is a vital start to the to the afternoon. For some reason, I've no idea why. I mean, the one thing it does do is that sort of the camera sweep across. It just reminds you of those huge banks of terracing that we all used to stand on back then. I mean, this is Selhurst Park. It's not one of the huge, the really huge grounds, but even so, I mean, it's such an impressive sight in its way, and also, I think now as you look back on it, it's quite an intimidating. So I mean, we all took it for granted at the time and thought nothing of it. You were just stuck in the middle of it, and that.
Yeah, it was what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but now you look at it, you think that was a bit mad, really, wasn't it? I mean, what were we doing? And there was no roof.
Yeah, no roof. Just a brooding embankment. The Crystal Palace side, they've still not got Mike Flanagan. He's still out injured with his hamstring. It's John Burridge, Paul Hinchelwood, Kenny Sanson, Peter Nicholas, Jim Cannon, Billy Gilbert, Jerry Murphy, Jerry Francis, a J and a G for those two, respectively, in the Jerryisms. We've got Ian Walsh, we've got Dave Swindlehurst, Vince Allaire, and Terry Fenwick is a substitute, with Brian Morris billing as a midfielder at this point in time, rather than the central defender we all knew him to be as his career progressed. Nottingham Forest, they're unchanged from midweek. A League Cup trip to West Ham, in which they got a draw at Upton Park, or the Bowling, as most were calling it at this point in time. Peter Shilton, Viv Anderson, Frank Gray, Ian Bowyer, Larry Lloyd, Kenny Burns, so potential for Kenny Burns' corner in this one. We've got Martin O'Neill, John O'Hare, Gary Birtles, Trevor Francis, John Robertson, and it's David Needham on the bench. Dave, this should be an absolute epic.
It should. I mean, Palace, our team of the 80s, chasing Liverpool down at the top. Forest going through a tricky period, shall we say, but still in the League Cup, still in the European Cup, in the top half dozen of the First Division. One of the major players, the big power. So it's it's got everything going for it, really. I mean, Palace, in a sense, in the same position as Forest had been, three seasons earlier, coming up into the league and chasing away at the top right the way through. So it's a really interesting collision there. And then, of course, you've got Terry Venables and Brian Clough in the B&Q dugouts.
Yes, the Selhurst Park plyboard B&Q dugouts are an absolute joy. I mean, Forest are fast out the blocks in this one. All the praise on Palace as bringing this spotlight on them, and here you've got Forest, and there'll be a bit of it the following week at Anfield. You've got the established now sitting up and taking note of Palace and taking them epically seriously, but there's a tinge of, I don't know, wanting to make a bit of an example of this upstart that's hogging quite a lot of the limelight at the minute, Dave.
Can't imagine Brian Clough was ever a great fan of Terry Venables. Somehow, and he clearly wants his side to make a point right from the outset. And as you say, Forest do start really well. Martin O'Neill takes an in-swinging corner with the outside of his right foot. I remember there being a load of fuss when Laurie Cunningham did that at Real Madrid. Here's Martin O'Neill doing it at Selhurst Park.
Yeah.
And doing it quite nicely, to be fair. I mean,
very good. Yeah, excellent.
John Burridge is clawing it away, isn't he, under the bar. So
he really is. He's almost embarrassed by it. It's almost so. I mean, it would have been very much in that goal of the season. I think it would have been hard to beat his goal of the season had this dropped out of the reach of John Burridge.
Absolutely. I mean, he does it. He does it really well. God knows where that's come from, because we haven't seen that before. Then a couple of minutes later, he has a shot from 12 yards out, which he also decides to take with the outside of his right foot and pokes that one wide. If he'd actually hit it properly, he probably would have scored. But you can have too much of a good thing, can't you?
You can indeed. But yeah, Martin O'Neill and Trevor Francis in particular, very bright in these opening stages. We've got a healthy amount of footage of this one. It's the feature match on the big match that particular weekend. Palace are very much just hitting on the break at this point in time. They're rope-a-dope, if you will, but enforced rope-a-dope maybe, because that is an impressive start from Forest. Peter Nicholas forces Shilton into a save. He struggles with the resultant corner, though. His form is under question at this point in time, Dave, and it will be exacerbated before half-time.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the imperious Peter Shilton of sort of the championship year and the following year earlier on, and it continued into this season. But over the last 2 or 3 games, it started to have some question marks about Peter Shilton, and he's made an error or two and not looked the confident figure. I mean, he's not helped in this by Frank Gray making a hash of things. And he's had to say that one from Nicholas, but as you say, he looks very unsure of himself.
Uncertain. Yeah, bit uncertain. We do have Kenny Burns' corner, but it's Larry Lloyd who provides it. There is. It's fair to say he goes in heavy on Jerry Francis, Jerry with a G, to earn himself a yellow card. I mean, interestingly, Kenny Burns is just a mere witness in this. Doesn't react. Just shrugs his shoulders and wants to get on with his afternoon. Robinson flashes a yellow card, with emphasis because the cameras are knocking around. Rather than, a Larry Lloyd who Brian Moore already, declares has had a talking to that we've not seen in the footage. So, I mean, I would have liked to have seen exactly what provoked the talking to before this yellow card, Dave.
Yeah, there's no need for talking on this one. I mean, he's very late. I think it's in the area of he got there as quickly as he could, kind of thing. But once he realised he wasn't going to get there, he decided he wasn't going to stop. I'll carry on here.
I have momentum. I will continue to my destination, and his destination was Jerry Francis's shin. It was a bit of a shocker. There is Walsh gets in with an opportunity. There's a bit of a rash decision by Shilton in coming for this one. For a goalkeeper that I'm used to kind of like being a 6-yard box goalkeeper, I was quite shocked by his decision to come out for this. Burns clears. Kenny Burns has a bit of an afternoon that is kind of, I don't know, quite textbook really. He's on the level. He's not too violent. He's leaving the maiming to Larry Lloyd on this occasion. It's some consummate defending there by Kenny Burns.
Yes, I think possibly this may well be the last time that Peter Shilton ever came out of his 6-yard box, because there's clearly no good that can come of it. I mean, he's nowhere near it. Walsh is in front of him and jabs it past him, and Kenny Burns is there, fortunately for him to clear it all up. Yeah, you can feel that Shilton. It's whether the defence has upset Shilton or Shilton has upset the defence. I'm not quite sure, but they are unbalanced at the back. Nottingham Forest. They look. Yeah, after we've had 3 seasons of Nottingham Forest barely ever letting a goal in. I mean, absolutely, resolute at the back and completely, used to having clean sheets and all of that. This doesn't look like the same Nottingham Forest anymore. There's an air of uncertainty about them, and Palace, having started to get back into the game now, they make the most of it and grab the first goal of the game before the break.
They do indeed. Forest punished for not making more of that early pressure, and it's quite the sweeping goal. Dave. Vince Hiller's involved. Walsh is involved. What can be said? It's 3 minutes before half time. And it's there's a degree of footballing croquet at play here.
There's Frank Gray claiming offside. The shot comes in from about 4 or 5 yards out, and it's barely even worthy of the name of shot. I mean, it's just a sort of poke gradually in the general direction of the goal, which Peter Shilton watches all the way through his legs and into the back of the net. It doesn't even have the strength to reach the back of the net. I mean, it does literally go about, I don't know, a foot over the line and expires. It's a terrible piece of goalkeeping, absolutely shocking.
What's great in the, and we'll come to Brian Clough's post-match thoughts on this game and many other things. For Shilton, the only thing that's lucky for him going in at the interval is that his manager hasn't noticed the manner of the goal. He's not this sea of legs in the penalty area. He has no idea that the ball's gone through Shilton's. I mean, it goes through Gray's legs as well. So it goes through Gray's legs. Then it takes about 10 minutes to roll through Shilton's legs, and then just forlornly makes it over the line. It's an absolute. I mean, actually, I am going to call it. This is the third inductee of the Your Boys Took a Hell of a Beating Hall of Fame. It doesn't have to be an individual. I think I'm making rules up as I go along here, Dave. But I think this incident, we can have incidents going in here, I think, as well. This is our third inductee. A worthy one?
It's possibly goal of the season as well, really. I mean, it's for England's self-proclaimed greatest ever goalkeeper. It's just a dreadful piece of goal. He does absolutely everything wrong. I mean, first of all, he misses the ball, which is not a good thing for a goalkeeper to do, obviously. But, I mean, he hasn't got his body behind it. He hasn't got his legs together. It's just... But there's no power on the shot. I mean, genuinely no power on the shot as it sort of trickles through. It's horrendous. Yeah, I mean, it's as though Romark had still left a bit of a mark on Selhurst Park, but in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. I'm also going to call I'm going to call another piece of magic for the Your Boys Took a Hell of a Beating Hall of Fame. 2 within the space of minutes in the same game here. We've gone for a double header. There's a great moment when a ball boy gets tangled up in what seems to be copious amounts of toilet roll, but in close inspection, it looks like it could be a roll of raffle tickets that he's been asked to sell to the front row of the terraces. It's magnificent. He runs after a ball that rolls out to play behind the Palace goal up the other end, and he literally gets entrapped within his own roll of raffle tickets, Dave. It's a wondrous sight, and then he has to try and kick them off himself as well, because he, in his own disappointment, he doesn't make it to the ball. Burridge beats him to the ball. It's a piece of magic.
Terry Venables will be having him in for extra coaching over the course of the week. It is remarkable, as you look back. You mentioned toilet roll earlier on in this series that brings you all the vital talking points of the 1970s and 1980s. But where did all that die out? It would be much better if they were lobbing toilet rolls now instead of flares. That would be a much more entertaining use. You'd have groundsmen running on and going berserk. It'd be great.
It would be great, but this was magic. It was the ball boys. His moment of fame. The big match cameras are there. I'm the ball boy at the side of the pitch. Behind John Burridge's goal. Look out for me. And all his mates are going to see that on Sunday afternoon, and he's going to go into school on Monday morning. But he's going to go in like an absolute hero, though.
I'm not sure. Not in the comprehensive I went to.
It was a piece of magic, though. And it's definitely number 4 in the inductee. Palace's ball boy against Forest makes it to number 4 in our Your Boys Took a Hell of a Beating Hall of Fame. Into the second half, Shilton kind of he redeems himself. He makes this fine save from Jerry Murphy with a J. It's there's a deflection involved as well. So Shilton's kind of remembering how to do the finer arts of goalkeeping here, Dave. It's not a completely lost cause at this point.
No, he does make a couple of good saves over the course of the second half. Presumably, just relieved that Brian Clough hasn't given him an absolute rollicking for letting the ball through his legs at half time. He's got away with it, so okay, that's good.
Brian Clough doesn't know this until Brian Moore informs him in the post-match interview. It's wonderful. There's a great moment where Frank Gray goes up against Jerry Francis as Forrest tried to get back into this game. He checks again. He makes his run for it, forgets to take the ball. It's the two of them run on for about 3 or 4 yards before they realise actually I got a minute of the ball. So
that kind of sums up.
Ball's over there.
That sums up Nottingham Forest at this point in time. I'm afraid. The last 2 or 3 weeks, it's all sort of gone away from them somehow.
It has for a team that were the fastest out the blocks, top of the table in the early weeks, 2 away wins, out of the first 2. It's very much gone wrong for them, certainly on their travels domestically. But that Gray Francis moment is another golden moment that if we hadn't already had two inductees, we'd have another. Francis, Robertson, saved by Burridge, pushed onto his post. The Forest do again have a bright start to the second half, but it's end to end. Shilton saves from Vince Hilaire. There's a corner, where Francis flick, it's cleared off the line. Trevor Francis flicks, Jerry Francis clears off the line. Palace off down the other end as well. Anderson with the clearing header. It's all action at this point. The game ramps up, Dave.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the first half was comparatively quiet, but this is proper end-to-end stuff. Both goalkeepers making decent saves. All the players you'd expect to be involved. John Robertson has a shot from distance, well saved, and there's another O'Neill shot that Burridge saves at the second attempt. Another Martin O'Neill in swinger with the outside of the right foot that we can enjoy. But it's got that feel that nobody's quite making the opportunity that's really going to count. And I mean, they're good saves by Shilton and by Burridge, but they're nothing special. Saves you would expect them to make. And it finishes with Palace winning the game, and probably deservedly so in the finish after the first half. And then there's a glorious shot at the end as they're going off as John Burridge and Peter Shilton comparing their kit bags on the halfway line. I don't think they go into the details of what's inside them, but they give one another's kit bag a good close inspection on the way out.
There absolutely is. I mean, there is one save that Shilton makes from Peter Nicholas, a 25-yarder that's tipped over that looks quite spectacular. Again, a degree of for the cameras maybe. It's one of those great ones that I think it's Brian Moore would if he hadn't already declared it in a previous match, one that goalkeepers like to make. We see a bit of Terry Fenwick, from the bench. There's a couple. There's a great late scramble in the penalty area as Burridge denies Robertson. But you've got Palace fans singing, "We're going to win the league," on the same weekend that Manchester United fans have been singing that as well when they've been chasing the game in the second half, chasing the winner in the second half against Leeds. Liverpool fans have voiced their own at Villa Park. It's still a 3-way battle for the title at this point, Dave.
It is, and quite an interesting one at this stage. I mean, it is only the first week in December, so it's still very early days, not quite halfway yet. So there's still a lot to play. But there's a really interesting interview with Jim Cannon afterwards, the Crystal Palace captain.
Yes.
Well, first of all, he's giving Peter Shilton no lifeline.
There's no truck there, is there?
No.
There's very little sympathy from the recently recalled Scottish international.
It was a bad mistake. I'd be disappointed if John Burridge had let that one in.
Brian Moore trying to do a bit of apologising for Pete Shilton at one point as well, in saying that John Burridge asks if there's anyone that John Burridge goes to for advice and knowledge, then it's Peter Shilton. Not this Saturday, Brian. Not this week. Not this week. Jim Cannon he declares that Palace have been superior in every department and that they can win the championship. Looming next week is a big test at Anfield. Terry Venables will go on to declare it to be the supreme test. Clough, he declares that he deserves a draw. He's totally unaware of the manner of the goal that's gone through Peter Shilton's legs. He seems utterly shocked when Brian Moore informs of these events. Just top level entertainment. The arrogance of Clough, the openness, it's got absolutely everything in this post match interview. This bit where he goes about his detractors, and then he goes into this monologue of I'll see you next week and the week after and the year after, and I'll put a trophy on the table. Yes, you're right, Brian, for this particular season, but that's going to start running away from you, from 88 years.
I mean, it is a classic Clough interview. I mean, as you say, he doesn't know about the goal. And he says, if it went through his legs, I can't think of a worse thing to happen to the poor lad, except he's laughing all the while that he's saying as though it's the most hilarious thing he's ever heard. Then he threatens to insert the microphone into Brian Moore and points out how immaculate Peter Shilton was.
Apart from the goal that he conceded and one or two other ropey moments. He then goes on to, BBC Sports report. That's a bust up with Peter Taylor. He has this pop about kind of like Peter Taylor's been on holiday a couple of weeks earlier, which isn't unusual at this point in time. Which is it's bizarre to read. There was a great one where Wolves manager John Barnwell wasn't present at a match because he'd gone on holiday. This is some kind of like winter sun is very much needed by the just what Joe Fagan and Ronnie Moran would have to say about this at this point in time. Of rival teams seeing their managers and coaches bail out for a week in Mallorca. Beggars belief. But Clough seems to have taken exception that Peter Taylor's gone and done this the previous week at a point in time where Forest are really struggling for results.
It reaches a stage where it's so serious that Brian Moore actually phones Peter Taylor and from the London.
It's a terrible line as well. It's a truly terrible line as well.
He must still be on holiday, presumably. I mean, he's found him in a hotspot in Marbella or something. I don't know where he's at. And we've got this bizarre montage of photographs of Clough and Taylor, and Peter Taylor denies that there's any rift at all. Absolutely ridiculous. We're so close, it's unbelievable. It's the happiest marriage of all time. Okay, yeah.
And then he's in the when he's talking to pressmen as well. It comes out in the Sunday papers as well that he's currently trying to set up a transfer, which will come to fruition the following week. Yeah, it's almost like it's a kind of like a making up present. Dave, he will deliver Brian a new striker next week, which we'll go into in the next subsection module. But next we're off to Ayresome Park, Dave. Roger Thames. The pictures are from Tyne Tees. It's an interesting game. We don't get a huge amount of highlights in this one, but what we do get, there's plenty of action, particularly in the second half. It has to be said.
Southampton famously at this point having an awful away record. I mean, if you've got an awful away record, the journey from Southampton to Middlesbrough must really drag on the way up there. I mean, my God, that's a trek. In the days before football teams used to fly to the local derby, actually. But anyway, that's another story. I mean, you can't have been filled with confidence if you were a Southampton player on the bus going to that particular game. We shall see how things turn out, but doesn't start particularly well for them, admittedly. It's a terrible mistake with David Hodgson through, and Wells makes a good save.
It's a good save at Hodgson's feet, and the ball bounces away. And the only other moment of note that we see in the first half is the goal that settles the game. Steve Williams from distance, there's deflection involved, but Southampton go into the interval 1-0. It's going to be a long journey there and back for the Southampton fans, but they'll go with 2 points.
It starts with Mick Shannon on the run, and there's always something thrilling about Mick Shannon in full flight. And we used to think, in that Southampton away kit, the yellow kit, and I mean, it's a very weird shot. The commentator doesn't pick up on it, but there's got to be some sort of deflection to take it past Jim Platt because it moves in mysterious ways. It's got more swing on it than Ian Botham used to manage to find with a new ball. I mean, it does all kinds of contortions to go past Jim Platt, and that's 1-0 Southampton. And given the season that they've had away from him, I mean that must have been a happy dressing room at half time.
It absolutely must have been. Jim Platt, unfortunate. With the goal he concedes, we've spoken a little bit of Jim Platt in previous subsection modules. He has a magnificent second half, Dave.
Very much like he did at Anfield when he let 4 goals in the poor side. But I mean, there's a great move from Southampton at the start of the second half. There's about 6 or 7 players involved in it. End up with Trevor Ebbert lashing one from 25 yards. It's a swirling shot. It's a brilliant save again from Jim Platt. Just manages to tip the ball over the bar, and we talked about his misfortune to be in the same generation as Pat Jennings, and I mean that just underlines it because I mean he'd be a shoo-in for lots of international teams at this point, playing really really well. But there's Pat Jennings.
He is. Pat Jennings is the immovable force at this point in time. But Jim Platt, again, excellent. He's very much a goalkeeper in form. Middlesbrough are moving the ball really well, and they get a penalty. It's David Hodgson. Jankovic is played in, and Ivan Golak pushes his compatriot.
Runs straight into the back of him, possibly outside the penalty area, but falls well inside the penalty area. He's making no mistake that he's going down right inside the penalty.
Yeah, there's some travelling involved, isn't there, Dave?
Yes. He's making the most of it, but he gets his award. And there's David Armstrong, who will go on to play for Southampton, of course. Steps up to take the penalty. It's a good save from Peter Wells. Goes to his right, David Armstrong's left. Makes a good save, but as he saves it, the ball just drops dead in the goalmouth mud, and there's David Armstrong to tap it in. So 1-1, or is it? Because the referee orders a retake after the goalkeeper has moved early, much to David Armstrong's disgust.
much to Brian Moore's dismay as well. At the over eager use of the whistle from the referee. David Armstrong really are done by with this. The penalty's retaken and well saved. It's just a. I mean, to be fair, Laurie McMenemy is suitably impressed enough to. There's such of the Victor Kayams. I was so impressed about the company. I was so impressed about the player for those 2 points at Ayresome Park that day. Yeah, massively unlucky for Middlesbrough. Now, on a day where Jim Platt just does not deserve to be on the losing side, Dave. Southampton, problems away. I mean, you can't decry. It's one of those results you can't decry Southampton 2 hard-earned points, which are not easy for them to get on the travels. But at the same time, a lot of sympathy for Middlesbrough in this one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're David Armstrong, you're going to pull out whatever hair you've got left, basically. I mean, you'd be livid after that. I mean, it was a fair play, though, to Peter Wells. Saves 2 penalties, I mean, you got to give him a bit of credit for that. But, I think that the best bit is Brian Moore, incandescent with rage, back in the studio about the referee blowing too quickly, before moving onto the letters bag.
He does indeed go onto the letters page. There's an interesting argument on how to pronounce Kevin Moran's name, shall we say? Or should we say Kevin Moran? And that's the whole crux of the argument. Is it Moran? Is it Moran? There's mention of his Gaelic football upbringing, and that Brian does indeed contact Old Trafford. He does like to contact people, does Brian? He really does like to contact people. God bless him. And he's got word from the horse's mouth that he should be Kevin Moran, which is quite rightly so. Dave, if you ever catch us calling him Kevin Moran again, then let's slap our wrists.
My favourite bit of it all is he's reading the letter out, and of course he has to read the address out of the woman who's written to complain, and he's got this hangdog impression. I've probably pronounced your address wrong as well.
Absolutely. A chastened Brian Moore. He's going to change his ways though. Lots of letters, lots of addresses again, as always with the big match. One exiled Portsmouth fan in the area has asked for the goals from the previous week against Halifax. Bit like how the Barnsley fan had wanted his goals against Sheffield Wednesday a few weeks earlier. And it's great. It's like a little jukebox that he's offering here, a jukebox moment. Presley, not Elvis. Garwood. It's a good day the previous week for Portsmouth. And beyond that, the BBC gave us we managed to find the goals of QPR Wrexham from down in the second division, Dave. Bizarrely kind of like bookended onto a YouTube footage that had the FA Cup semi-final from 1982, Dave. It was an odd one, but I mean we'll ignore the last 30 seconds of that footage, which is all that you need to watch of that game. We have explored before on a podcast elsewhere. Wrexham shooting to a 2-0 lead. This it's a shame there's only so little footage of this one because it looks like an absolutely magnificently entertaining game. Edwards and Vinter put Wrexham 2-0 up, but then there's a couple of excellent goals from Paul Goddard, who I always thought was a highly underrated striker. I thought he was an excellent goal scorer over the years. Dave, QPR, it's interesting times. The manager doesn't know it yet, but he's going to get a leg muscle injury in an altercation with some Manchester fans on the train. They're about to lose their star striker. It might be to Nottingham Forest. It might not. We'll discuss that in the next subsection module. Dave, QPR Wrexham for all 30 to 40 seconds of it. I mean, to be fair to the editors managed to get all 4 goals into not much more than 40 seconds worth of footage.
Yeah, the first goal is a nice one from Ian Edwards. First time finish running onto a flick on from McNeil for Wrexham. Remember Ian Edwards playing for West Brom, and he never scored a goal like that, I can tell you. Then the second one is a proper goal mouth scramble from the second division before it's finally forced in. But yeah, you're right about Paul Goddard. He always seemed to be overshadowed by Clive Allen wherever it was that he went. Somehow, Paul Goddard. But yeah, he was a player he was one of that big crop of English strikers in the 80s who was sort of always close to getting in the England team and never quite really made it. I suppose obviously Lineker dominated the second half of the 80s, and Keegan was there in the first half, and Mariner and Francis and whatnot. So there was plenty of competition all through that period, and he was one of the ones that lost out. But he scores 2 good goals in this one, the first one. I mean, Tony Curry plays into him. He chests it down, turns and shoots in the bottom corner, all in one move. It's a terrific goal to score. And then there's the second one. I mean, it's Bob Hazel. He comes barreling through the Wrexham midfield like a juggernaut on the end of a McCreary pass. Nobody getting in the way. They're bouncing off him and runs through another challenge, and then it bobbles to Goddard, who finishes it off 2-2 for the. I mean, that was 2-2 against Wrexham. I mean, obviously Wrexham now are having their time again, but that was a good Wrexham side.
It was.
It's probably the best that they'd had up until what's coming kind of thing. So it wasn't a bad result for QPR really, albeit at home and stuff. But not a bad draw. Tommy Docherty must have been relatively pleased as he got on his train.
But it's all going to go a bit Agatha Christie before he gets off. Just no Poirot on that train for him. That's the problem. Other results in the second division. Dave, Burnley have got their second league win of the season. They remain rooted to the bottom of the table, but they've managed a 1-0 win at home to Watford. Fulham 2, Shrewsbury 1. Leicester 2, Orient 2. Luton 1, Newcastle 1. Draws very popular in the second division this week. Notts County 1, Birmingham City 1. Oldham Athletic 1-0 winners at home to Chelsea. Preston 2, Cambridge 2. QPR 2, Wrexham 2 as mentioned. Sunderland 2-1 winners at home to Cardiff. Swansea 1-0 winners at home to Charlton Athletic. Ian Callaghan with the goal there. And West Ham 2-1 winners at home to Bristol Rovers. Still very tight at the top. Newcastle are top now on 26 points ahead of Luton and Leicester on 25. Also on 25 but out of the top 3, Chelsea. QPR on 24. Birmingham City 23. West Ham 22. Sunderland 21. That's what the top 8, I make it there, split by 5 points at the foot of the table. Burnley are now within touching distance again off the bottom on 12 points. Above them it's 13 for Bristol Rovers and Shrewsbury. Suddenly only 2 points off the safety, the sanctuary of 19th place. Charlton Athletic on 14 points. Still plenty to play for in Division 2, Dave?
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, it's a typical promotion scrap at the top of that division. It's always really tight. It's just amazing. Virtually all of the second division football that we've seen has been Chelsea and QPR. It'd be quite nice to see a bit of Newcastle or Birmingham or something at some stage.
It would indeed. It would indeed. We'll see what we can do for the next weekend, Dave. Headlines revolving teams outside the top flight. The main story revolves around the main story. It's Swindon, Division 3 Swindon. We'll come to them in a minute. But Gordon Banks has been sacked as goalkeeping coach at Port Vale. Banks is not impressed. Port Vale's goalkeepers, they just don't want to know. Apparently, the manager and an assistant manager have resigned. The Port Vale board has responded by clearing the entirety of the coaching decks to start again. Gordon Banks part of this collateral damage, but a man who's not particularly popular with his protégés. Apparently, Dave.
Hard to imagine, really. I mean, Gordon Banks, God. If you were a goalkeeper, I would have thought you'd be falling over backwards to be having Gordon Banks as your goalkeeping coach.
Absolutely. Footballs, you just can't tell them anything, Dave. Cup quarter final midweek in the lead up to these weekend games. Swindon Town have got a late equaliser away at Arsenal. They're going to take it to a replay at the county ground next week. Grimsby Town have held Wolverhampton Wanderers to a draw at Blundell Park, goalless draw. West Ham 0, Nottingham Forest 0. The only team to actually make it through to the semi-finals around the initial games, Liverpool, with that trip to Carrow Road with Botherboy Ted on the terraces, 3-1 winners. They've got their place. The draw's been made. Liverpool will take on the winners of the replay between West Ham and Nottingham Forest. And it's one of those, unweirdly, it's going to be Arsenal or Swindon Town versus Grimsby Town or Wolves in the opposite semi-final. Surely Arsenal can't make another You know, they'll get it right in the replay, won't they?
You would have thought so. I mean, you know, having had form against Swindon Town in the League Cup in the 60s,
Lightning does not strike.
They'll get it right this time around. No question about it, surely.
Excellent. We will find out within the next subsection paragraph, which will be 1.13, taking us to Saturday, the 15th of December. Dave, thank you so much. It's been a joy again.
Pleasure.
As ever, spread the word. Subscribe. Your boys took a hell of a beating, of which 1979-80 Revisited comes from. Do join us again next time. Thank you and goodbye.